Welcome back, everyone. This is Rabbi Nathan Zaboulani, learning with you the commentary of Rabbenu Avraham ben Harambam on Parashat Vayeshev. Today, we're going to be discussing Yosef's unique request to the Sar HaMashkim when the Sar HaMashkim is going to be released from jail. Now, how did Yosef end up in jail? Let's set up the Pesukim. Yosef was very successfully working for the Sar HaTabachim, and this man's name was Potiphar, and Potiphar's wife eventually starts to lust after Yosef. Yosef withstands this test, does not sin with Potiphar's wife, but as a result, angers the wife of Potiphar. Potiphar's wife vilifies Yosef. Yosef is thrown into this jail, into this pit, and this is a hopeless situation that Yosef is in. In that hopeless situation, there is a glimmer of hope. Yosef sees two other dignitaries from the house of Paro who have dreams. He interprets those dreams, and the dream of Sar HaMashkim is a very positive one. Sar HaMashkim is going to be released, as Yosef predicts through the dream. And before the release of the Sar HaMashkim, Yosef requests something. He says, Im zechartani itecha ka'asher itav lach. Will you please remember me? Ve'asita na'im adi chesed. Do kindness for me. V'izkartani el Paro. And mention to me, to Paro, ve'otzetani min habayit hazeh, and remove me from this place, from this jail that Yosef was stuck in, with no hope in sight. And the following Pesukim describe how Velo Zachar Sar HaMashkim Yosef Vayishkachehu. The Sar HaMashkim does not remember Yosef. Upon leaving the jail, he does not mention Yosef's name, at least not immediately, to Paro, and Yosef remains in the pit. Now, on this, many of the commentators notice how Yosef's situation, which was bad, he's not saved from the situation, at least not immediately. And this was, according to some of the commentaries, due to the fact that Yosef was trusting in this man, this Egyptian, this Sar HaMashkim, when he really should not have. And as a result, Yosef's punishment is extended. And this is the commentary of Rashi. He remembers, he forgets him, right after. Because Yosef relied on him to remember him, he was punished further that he would remain in the jail for an additional 2 years because he violated this pasuk, this idea, this concept. A person should rely on Borei Olam, and yet Yosef relied on the Sar HaMashkim. And this is seen as a negative to Yosef. Rabbenu Avraham brings this topic up, and he says that it's possible that you could interpret the Pesukim as a negative on Yosef, as though Yosef had a lack of emunah. But not necessarily. You don't have to interpret that way. Rather, you can interpret it quite differently. He says, he brings these other opinions, that Yosef was punished for 2 years for relying on the Sar HaMashkim, but he takes a different direction. He says, it's possible that you don't have to interpret this negatively. That if a person really believes in Borei Olam and trusts Hashem, there's nothing wrong. It doesn't take away from his reliance in Borei Olam if he does an average, normal, expected thing in order to benefit himself, in order to protect himself, in order to save himself. He's relying on Hashem. He understands he has emunah in Borei Olam, but that doesn't mean that he can't seek other means of normal, regular methods to have his own back. Look at Yaakov. Esav is coming towards him, and Yaakov prepares a mincha, gifts for Esav. Should Yaakov not have done that? Should he have not prepared for his own saving? Yitzhak claimed that Rivka was his sister in order to be protected from the potential danger that would come from Avimelech and his wicked followers. And also Abraham did so with Sarah. And nowhere do we see a reprimanding of our avot for the fact that they took measures to protect themselves, to save themselves from an uncertain danger. But what does Rabbeinu Avraham do with the fact that it really is clear that Yosef was delayed? He was in that jail for a long period of time, and the Sar HaMashkim does not remember him. How do you explain that? It seems that the Pesukim are pointing to the fact that this is the punishment for the lack of bitachon that Yosef had. Rabbeinu Avraham explains it in a beautiful way. He says ושכח אותו שר המשקים 2 שנים, הוא שהמתין עד שהגיע הזמן אשר מתיר עשויים קצר בו את יציאתו, כמו שנאמר בזה בתהילים, עד עת בו דברו. שלח מלך ויתירהו. That there was a time, there was a necessary time for Yosef to have been remembered. And the time did not come for another 2 years. It was necessary for him to wait for Paro to need him. Because since Yosef was in the same location as when Sar HaMashkim had left, and Sar HaMashkim remembers Yosef at the opportune time when Paro needs him and he calls for Yosef, now Yosef is needed by none other than the king. And he comes in big in order to help the king out and is now elevated to a very high position. However, if at the moment that the Sar HaMashkim got out, he recommended Yosef and Paro, for whatever reason, said, oh, you know what, there's this guy Yosef in the pit and you want to save him and he did good, all right, take him out. But the king wouldn't have needed him. Yosef would have come out as a free man from jail, but he would have had nothing. He would have no opportunity to rise the ranks. And since Yosef remained in the jail till the opportune time that he was needed, instead of being free as a nobody, he became free as the main advisor of Paro. In other words, Rabbeinu Avraham does not view the remaining Yosef in jail as a negative, but rather as a positive. Rather, it was necessary for him to be in that spot, to be waiting on to call when he was needed most, so that he could rise the ranks. This was not a punishment. In fact, if anything, it was a reward for Yosef's appropriate behavior of bitachon, of reliance in Borei Olam, but also being proactive and seeking out measures that would be in his best interest. And in fact, the Sar HaMashkim was the one who connected Yosef with Paro at the perfect time, which is really, at the end of the day, the best thing that possibly could have happened to Yosef for him to rise the ranks so quickly. This is the unique positive spin that Rabbeinu Avraham puts on the actions of Yosef, with a beautiful combination, a balance of trust in Borei Olam, but also doing your own measures in order to protect yourself. Chazak Baruch, please join us for more classes through TanachStudy.com. See you next week as we continue our learning of Rabbeinu Avraham ben Harambam on the Parasha.